Okay, so welcome back to week 4 of the Cal. We're starting this one with the lovely bright blue yarn. So for me that's the azure colour. We're going into the very first, very first stitch of the right side. So we've got the right side of the work facing, and we're going into that very first stitch to pull that through. We're then going to do 3 chains, nice simple row this one. So I like to do 1 with the tail, and then I'm going to do 2 with the working yarn, and then we're going to work trebles all the way across to the end on this one. So nice and easy. We're not working again into that first stitch. That chain of 3 does count as the first stitch, and if you wish you can crochet in the tail. Just saves you sewing it in later. So just run that across the back of the yarn. Hopefully you can see there where it's just getting tucked neatly in. So yeah, work all the way to the end doing UK trebles, and we will see you very shortly at the other end of the row. So here we are at the end of the row, and we're doing the final UK treble. So you pull through with 2, and so that we don't have the bleeding down the edge, we are now changing straight into the next colour, which for me it's Yarn J, and for me it's the Clementine or Clementine, whichever you prefer. And then we're going to turn. Okay, we'll see you shortly with the next row. Okay, so row 98, we're on the wrong side of the work, and we're going to do a 1 chain. Doesn't count as a stitch, and I've just done it with the tail. And then we're doing a double crochet into the first stitch. It is just worth at the end of the previous row having a quick count to make sure you've got your 145 that you need. I've already done that, so we're okay to crack on with this. Then a double treble, which is 2 wraps, and then into the hole, back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. And this is one that you'll remember from before because it makes a little lumpy stitch on the other side. So we're doing a double crochet followed by a double treble, moving on 1 stitch each time. So there we go, into that one, a double crochet, and you can see how it looks like this on the back, and you're getting that nice little raised bit on the front. Okay, we're going to carry on to the end of the row, and we will see you again very soon. Okay. So here we are at the end. This is how it looks on the right side, and then this is the wrong side which we've been working across. We're now joining with the next colour, which for me is this lovely lime shade. So we are going to be turning the work in a moment, so we will see you in a second with the next colour. Thanks. Okay, so row 99, we really are getting on with this now. It's starting to look beautiful. So we start with a chain of 3. So as usual I've done 1 with the tail, and then 2 with the working yarn. Then we're going to do half a treble, so half treble into the top of the bobble, basically there, and that's where you pull through all 3 of your loops. And then we're going to do a normal UK treble into what was the double crochet so that one's always a little bit more tricky. It's a bit tighter when you've done the row before. So a half treble, so you start in the same way, you wrap, go in, pull back through, round and through all three, and then wrap again into the next stitch, back through, but then it's round and through two, round and through two. So we're going to continue that all the way to the end of the row. Do make sure that when you're doing the half treble, you're going under both those loops. You don't want to be just picking one up. You want a nice firm connection there where you've got two loops, and then bring it all the way through the three. Okay, we'll see you at the other end of the row very soon. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row. I'm finishing on a UK treble into that final stitch and pulling through with the pink. And there we go, that's where you should be at this point. We'll see you again for the next row in just a moment. Okay, so for this row, so row 100, we've joined in yarn C. So I picked up a bit of fluff there, just move past that just in case. So I'm doing one with the tail, let's get that one out of the way, and then yeah, sorry, that's my one chain with my tail, and then a double crochet into the first stitch, and then a double treble into the next stitch. So it's exactly the same as two rows below, just in a different yarn colour. So we've got the double crochet and then the double treble. So that's round and through two, round and through two, round and through two again. So a normal UK double and a double treble. So really nice and easy, and you will start to see the stitch pushing out at the other side, so you've got that nice bobble going along. Okay, we'll see you very soon at the other end. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and we're changing colour, and that is to back to yarn C. I did cut my yarn off. You don't actually need to there, but never mind, it's not a major thing. So we pull that through, we're back on the nice lime colour. Just to say that the next few rows are worked the same as a block of rows from earlier, so the video will show those rather than redoing them all again. So rows 101 to 107 you'll get some video from previous. Okay, and then we'll see you again soon at the end of that block. Okay, so we've got the lovely lime green. We're going to start with a chain of 3. So one with the tail, setting your hand up and doing 2 more with the normal yarn. Then we do a half treble into the next stitch, which is the top of the long stitch that we did, and then we do a treble into the double crochet. So that's yarn and through 2, yarn and through 2. So a half treble and a treble, and we're continuing that all the way along the row to the end, and we need to make sure we've got 145 stitches again at the end of these so that we've got the right number for when we get on to the fancier rows shortly. Okay, we'll see you soon at the end of this row. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and this time we're sticking with the same green, so we've just finished with the treble, so no change of yarn. Okay, we'll see you in a moment at the beginning of the next row. Okay, so here we are back with the next row. So for this one we do a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch, and then we're doing 1 double crochet, that's a UK double crochet, so making sure you get both loops of the stitch underneath. So we're doing double crochet all the way along the row, and this is to make a nice firm base for our next row, where we're going to start looking at our tents. Okay, so we'll continue this to the end of the row, and we'll see you in a few moments. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and we're changing to this lovely creamy colour, the ecru, because the next row we're going to be starting with our tents. Okay, we'll see you again in a moment. Okay, so we're on with now our foundation row for the tents. So we start with a 1 chain, and that's just to anchor the yarn. It's not an actual, it doesn't count as a stitch. And then we're working 1 UK double crochet into the first stitch, then a chain of 3, and we're missing 2 stitches, and we're going to be working into that one there. So we've got 1 double crochet into that stitch, a treble, a UK treble into the next stitch, a double treble, which is 2 wraps before you go in to anchor your stitch there, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, and then we're going to triple treble 2 together, and they're all going into 1 stitch. So that's 3 wraps for your triple in there, back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, so you've got your 2 loops left, and then we're going to do another 3 wraps, then in and back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2 again, and sorry, we go through all 3 of the final ones. So we'll just do a little bit more. So I've got another double treble into the next stitch, a normal treble into the one after, and a double crochet into the next stitch, and then we do 6 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We miss 5 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're working into the 6th stitch, and we start again with a double crochet and then a treble, and a double treble, and then we've got the triple treble 2 together, so we've got 3 wraps in, round and back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2, so you've got your 2 loops left, then 1, 2, 3, into the hole again, round and back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. I've got 3 loops there, round and through all 3. And then we've got a double treble to the next one, 2, 3, a standard treble, and then a double crochet. So you can see there they do stretch out quite nicely actually to straighten up, but they'll give a bit more texture when we get onto the next row. So again, at that point you chain 6. Oops. A bit more tension on my yarn there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and start with the double crochet again in the 6th one. So this is what we're aiming for across the row. When you've finished, you should have 12 of the tents going across. Okay, I'll see you at the end of the row in just a minute. Okay, so we're at the end and I've paused where I've finished on the last double crochet of this set. On the final one you finish at the 2 stars that are marked in the instructions. So we don't then want a chain of 6, we need a chain of 3, and then we're going to miss 2 stitches and work a double crochet. I always find this end stitch a bit faffy. A double crochet into that final stitch. We're not changing colour at the moment, so that's good. But there, that just gives you a bit of an idea of where you are, and each section it will be a little bit sort of stuck out to the front. That's just what we're expecting to happen. Okay, we'll see you with the next row in just a moment. Okay, so here we go. We've got 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch, and a double crochet into that first stitch to have an edge to anchor onto. Then we chain 3, 2, 3. Then we miss this chain of 3 and we do a UK double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3. So that's the first 3 stitches of the tent. Then we're going to do into that central stitch, which is above the 2 longer stitches there, we are doing a double crochet, a half treble, remember they're all UK stitches, that's through all 3, and another double crochet, and then 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. And then a chain of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we miss the 6 that we did before and we start again. So we've got 3 individual double crochet like so, and then we have a double, a half treble, which is 1 wrap before you go into the hole, and then pull it through all 3, and then another double, and then 3 more individual double crochet into the next 3 stitches. So that's what we're going to be doing all the way along with your chain of 6 in between, and that creates the top of your tent and a nice firm ridge there. Okay, we'll carry on across the row and we'll see you when we get to the other end. Okay, so we're nearly at the end. I've done the chain of 6 and I'm just about to do my 3 individual double crochet, and then there's a double, half treble, double, all in the same hole. Then we've got 3 final double crochet, and then chain of 3, miss 3, and always a bit stiffer at the end if you've done a nice neat stitch at the end. Now you're on your last double crochet there, and we are actually changing colour here, so we're on for this pale sort of blue-grey colour that's coming through at the end. Okay, so there we go, that's how you're looking as you get to the end. We'll see you again in a moment. Okay, so I've got a slightly more complex row now. So we're going to start with a 1 chain, which as usual doesn't count as a stitch, and then a double crochet into there, and that just anchors the end piece. Then working in front of these chains, we're going to do trebles into the green row. That's 2 rows down. So that's 1 and 2, and then effectively we're covering over the white that's already there. Then we're working into the back loops only of the relevant stitches here, so you can see how you've got your central set there. We've got 1, 2, 3 here, so we're going to work a double crochet into the back loop only of these stitches, so you can see hopefully here how you've got this sort of love heart look. So working sort of carefully backwards from the centre there, I've got these 3, so I'm going into that one. Just try and hold that close so you can see where I'm going. And that's 1 double crochet, and then 2 and 3. And now we're at the centre point here where you had 3 stitches worked in to 1. So we're going to miss a stitch, work into the back loop only of the next stitch, miss a stitch, which is that one, and then work into the back loop only of the next 3. So you can see how that is pushing your tent forward, making it more prominent, which is what we want. Then we're having a treble, or working a treble into each of these 5 stitches that we missed on the green row below. So 1, we're going fully in, we're not just taking a back loop or a front loop, getting a nice firm join. Need a bit more yarn there. 4, 5. Okay, and then we're here with the next one. So again, it's a back loop only, and we're doing 3, 1 each into the next 3 stitches there. Then we miss a stitch, work 1 into the centre stitch, miss a stitch, work 1 into each of the next 3, and then we're on to the next set where you've got 5, so just push them out of the way with your finger and work your 5 trebles. Okay, so you can see there how it's starting to build up and that your tents are actually pushing forward because you've worked into the back loops there. Okay, so we're going to work that all the way to the other end, and we'll see you in a moment. Right, so we're almost at the end here, and you can see how we've got these little tents nicely sticking out at the front there, and we're right on to the end. So as at the other end, we've only got 2 stitches that we can work into, so that's 1, that is the second of the trebles, and then we're doing a double crochet into the final stitch to anchor it at the end. Oops, touched. So there we go, that's what you've got there, and that's how it will look across the top. Hopefully you can give you a good idea of what you're aiming for. Okay, we'll see you in a moment in the next row. Okay, so chain of 3 and 1 treble into each of the next 2 stitches, so that's going under both loops. And then a half treble, which is where you pull through all 3 in one go in the next 2 stitches. Double crochets, again under everything, there's no back or front loop specific here, it's under both. So 3 double crochet, and then another 2 half trebles, and then a treble into each of the next 5 stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to be repeating all the way across. So 2 half trebles, 3 double crochet, another 2 half trebles, and then you're back to 5 UK trebles. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what you then have, I'll show you both sides. So that's how it's going to be looking from the side that you're working at. We're leveling off the line again, so we're straightening it back up. And on the other side, that's what you'll have showing there. So I think that's looking really good now, really colourful. It does feel to have gone a little bit wider, but it will square off as we continue. There's just quite a lot of fabric going into this section. Okay, we'll see you at the other end. Okay, so we're at the end and we're now going to finish with trebles. Oops, not there. Into those final stitches. So there's actually 3 trebles at the end because you need to work one clearly into your final stitch. So that's how we look from the back, and that's how we are from the front. Okay, we'll see you again very shortly. Okay, so this row we start with the 1 chain. Doesn't count as a stitch, never does with the 1 chain, and then a double crochet into each of the next 6 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to do a double crochet and we're going to catch this front loop here. So we go in there and then into the stitch behind it and do a front loop, a double crochet there, and that helps to pull up the tent top and give it that lovely little peak. And then we're doing 1 double crochet into each of the next 11 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then the same thing again, where we go pick up that front loop only and then go into the stitch as well and do another double crochet, and then we're going to do another 11. So we going to keep doing 11 in between, and then the 12th stitch is going to catch that loop. Okay, we'll see you at the other end and do the finishing off. So here we are at the end. You can see how they're nicely anchored now at the top, and we're on our final 6 double crochet. 4, 5, and number 6 was in the chain of 3 there at the end. So that's what you've got. At this point, some really cute little tents going on. That's how you're going to look at the back. Okay, so we'll join you in a moment with the next row. Okay, so row 108, nice and easy. Start with a chain of 3, and then you're working 1 UK treble into every stitch to the end. So there you go. Nice, simple, straightforward row. We'll join you at the end as we change our colours. Okay? Okay, so here we are at the end of the row. We've done a full set of trebles, and we're now going to change over to the lovely violet coloured one, which is yarn E. Okay, so that's where we are at the end of this one. This is how you look on the front. Sorry, just get that in the middle. There we go. So we'll see you again in a moment for the next row. Okay, so we're back with row 109, and I'm going to start with a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch, but I've got a slightly different way of doing this row that we've done once before, because within this row I'm just going to put in this extra colour here because we've got to make bobbles. So as you can probably see, I've got a marker there. That's to remind me for the bobble. But there's a couple of things I want to do with this row. The first one is that doesn't count as a stitch, so we are doing a double crochet into that first stitch, and I'm going to start by doing 6. 4, 5, 6, because on a previous bobble row the bobbles are all done in this different colour, and to actually anchor this yarn was a little bit difficult when I got to here. So what I'm now going to start doing is crocheting round that yarn as I do the next 6 stitches, because I need 12 here. So that tail end needs to be going out this way, right, so that the working yarn is coming with us, and you'll see why in a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you've got your purple stitch sat there, and as you can now see, I've got the yellow attached in there, because then what we need to do is sort of push that purple yarn out of the way and pick up the yellow yarn, and we're going to make a bobble. Now to make this particular bobble, because there's more than one way to make a bobble, we do yarn over hook, and that is why I've anchored it here, because it's really difficult to get yarn over hook when the yarn is just wafting around. So we're then going into this hole, so I can now remove that so it's not in the way, bring that back through and round and through 2, and then I'm going to do that again. So wrap the yarn, bring it back through, round and through 2, all into the same hole. So that's number 3. So round in, grab them back through. That's 4, because I've now got the 4th one on, and we need 5 in total. So I've now got 5 yellow loops and 1 purple one, and then to complete the bobble we have to go back to the purple yarn, wrap it and pull it through all of them to bring it in tight. And then we're continuing with double crochets in purple, but you also need to be bringing the yellow yarn along, because what you don't want to do is keep cutting the yellow yarn off, because it makes a lot of ends to sew in, which are annoying. So keeping the yellow yarn nice and tight across the back, we're now going to do 11 double crochet, and as you can see as we get nearer, I have popped a stitch marker in where the next bobble's going to be. It's quite a useful thing to do anyway, but particularly when you're demonstrating, because it's quite easy to lose count or work past where you're going. So we're back at stitch 11. Pop that purple yarn to the back. I'm now going to remove my stitch marker, and then we're going to start again. So we're wrapping into the hole, bring it back through, wrap and through 2. So it's a double crochet basically, but we're doing 5 of them into the hole to make the bobble. So that's 3, 4 and 5. 5. So again, we've got 5 yellow, 1 purple, and then we grab the purple and bring it through all of them, and then we start again with double crochet. I want to bring that forward so it stays at the front. Try and keep a bit of tension on so that you don't end up with a very sloppy stitch at the side. Oops, I did a treble then. So that's it. We're working double crochets all the way along. There's 11 double crochet between, and then a bobble stitch, and then another 11 and a bobble stitch, right through to getting to the other end, where you'll end up with actually 12 double crochet at the other end, as we did at the beginning. Okay, we'll see you again shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and as at the other end, I've just gone 6 stitches along to tie the yellow in, and to give me somewhere to anchor it really. And then we're going to finish off with the last few double crochet. So I need to have 12, so that's going to be my final one. Just double check there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so that's what you're ending up with, and that's the back. You can just see how the yellow's carrying across there. Okay, we will see you again in just a moment with row 110. Okay, so row 110, lovely and simple. We're in the same purple, so we're just going to chain 3. That counts as the first treble, so I'm not working into that one, I'm working into the next one, because that is the first treble there. And then these are UK trebles, remember. We're just going to work all the way across to the other end. And there we go, so working across the back at the moment, and then I will be sewing these extra threads in as I go along. Okay, we'll see you in a moment at the other end of the row. Okay, so we're at the end of the row. You can see how nice and neat we're looking now. So we're finishing with our final treble, and as we need to change colour, I'm going to do that final pull through on that stitch with the nice bright blue, the azure. Okay, we will see you in a moment with the next row. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. This is both rows 111 and 112. So in each case we are starting off with a chain of 3, because these are 2 very simple and identical rows. So that's counting as your first stitch, so I'm not working into that first one again. And then we are, my fingers a little bit at 6s and 7s there. Right, we're working UK trebles all the way across the row. So we're just building up a little bit of fabric to work the next section again after this. So for some reason this is just fighting a little bit. There we go. So UK trebles right to the end. So that's both this row and the next row. So a chain of 3, then UK trebles all the way across. When we get to the other end, row 112 is just the same until we get to the very final stitch where we do have to change colour. And there's another little note to make about it as well. So 2 rows of trebles. Okay, see you again shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end of row, it's 112, and you can see I've worked 2 rows there of trebles, and in this final treble we are changing to yarn G, which is the lovely ecru yarn. Now don't fasten off yarn A, we will be coming back to that in a little while, so don't fasten it off, just keep it there to one side, because the next row gets quite tricky. So we will see you shortly for the next row. Okay, this is definitely one of the more complex rows. So we're going to add another row of flags in here. So I have joined in my cream coloured yarn, and then we're going to join in all the other colours, virtually all the other colours, at different points. So just you might want to set up your row of colours as well before you start doing this. I have also popped in some stitch markers because we are going to be working 2 rows down here. So you'll see where this all comes in a moment, or you may remember it from doing this before. But we start off with a 2 chain, which counts as a treble, oh sorry, our first half treble, and then we work 3 half trebles, one into each of the next 3 stitches. 2, 3, and as we get to this point, I'm going to join in the lovely cerise pink yarn to make the first flag with. So making a chain of 5, 1, 2, don't make these too tight or you'll find it very difficult to work into. So I've got 5 relatively loose chains there, and then we're doing a front post slip stitch, which is where you go across, grab your yarn, bring it back through, but then you go straight through your other stitch, and that anchors the stitch, and it's 2 rows down and 6 stitches in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going round your 6th stitch there. Then you need to turn the work sideways, and I like to move the yarn round so that it's in an easier place for me to work. You don't work into the slip stitch, you work into the next stitch, and we're just going to do a double. Then we're doing a half treble, and we're working into the next stitch, then a normal UK treble, so starts off the same, and as you can see we're going under, it's not going in and under, round and through 2, round and through 2, and then a double treble into that next stitch. These are a bit fiddly, but it's worth it in the end, and then you go underneath like that. There's probably another way of working these too, but this is the way I've found works for me. So if you've had a little twiddle about and decide you prefer something different, that's fine, as long as you get a similar look at the end. Now when you get to the final pull through, we need to find the cream yarn again and then pull through with that, but be very, very careful that you don't pull it tight, because this needs to lay a little bit flat. It is obviously a little bit proud of where you are, but it needs to be flat. We then miss 1, 2, 3 stitches, and you can see I've got my blue one there, and then we are working half trebles into each of the next 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, going into the 4th one. So that's a UK half treble, so we've got 3 loops. So it's a wrap, in, wrap, bring it back, wrap and through all 3, and again, and now I'm into that 4th stitch, and we change colour again, so this time I'm going for the green, and then we start again doing exactly the same as we've just done for that one. Okay, so again, you can pick whatever order of colour you want to do your flags in, and basically we're using almost every colour. The only one I'm not including is the turquoise from before, and obviously the cream is not an individual flag, it's just a background colour, but all the other colours, whatever order you like, you work across in. There is a suggested order, and you can go by the image on the blanket, which I'm planning to do, so I'm going to lay them out in the colour that the order that they come on the image. So I hope that's helpful, and we'll see you again at the end of the row. Right, here we are at the end of the row, and I have worked 4 half trebles as before, and then you do one final one into that last stitch, and then this time we are going to fasten this off. So I've cut my yarn and I'm going to sew all bits in. So these are my little flags still waiting to have all their ends sewn in here. You don't turn the work, you're going to go back to the beginning of the row, but yeah, hopefully you've got something looking very similar to this. So it's time to spend a few minutes now sewing those ends in, and we'll see you again shortly. Okay, so we haven't turned the work, we've gone back to the beginning, and the blue that we left attached is still there, and it's just ready for us to pick this back up. So it joins into the top of the 2 chain that started the row before, and we're going to chain 3. And then, as we've mentioned before, UK half trebles have these 2 stitches here at the top, or like the double loop, but then they have an extra loop at the back. So when we get to the half trebles, we're going to be working into that back loop only. So I'll show you that now. The first one is going to be the trickiest, simply because of how the stitch sort of lies. So I'll just show you here. I'm going to be picking up here and here, and then I'm going to try and pick up into that tiny little loop there, which is definitely going to be the tricky bit. So we're going to wrap the yarn, and then I'm just going to have to fight a little with it. There we go, that wasn't too bad. It's always tricky, that first one, not just sure why. And we're working a treble into each one, so this time is easier. That's the back loop, so you can see I've got the other 2 loops still at the front, and I'm working into that one. So that's 2 and 3, and then we're going to be working into the stitches that were missed on the row below and working round these loops. So again, it's a treble, but this time I'm wrapping those in, and then I'm going under both loops to get a nice firm join there. So that's a treble, and then another one, and then another one. Just going to move the yarn across. It seems to be in the wrong place. I don't know why I've got it at the other side. There we go. So I've got 3 there, and then we're starting to work again a treble into the back loops only, but it's easier once you've got into the following groups. So again, a UK treble, I'm picking up, you can see the loops, there's like a little extra bit there. We're not going into that, we're going into these. As long as you're consistent across the row and you're working into sort of the same bit consistently at the back, you'll get a nice even finish. So we have 4 stitches there into the back loop only, and then again we're wrapping the next slot in, so you kind of have to go underneath it and then into there and do a treble, and again a wrap, go in underneath, into there, back through, work a treble and a final one. So you keep doing 3 trebles, 1 into each of the blue stitches. That is 2 rows down, and you can see how we're just wrapping this up. It just keeps it neat at the back, and then we're going to be working into the back loops only of the next set all the way along. So we will see you at the other end shortly. So here we are at the end of the row, and we're doing 4 trebles into these back loop only stitches, and then we have 1 final treble into that final stitch at the end. We're not changing colour at this point. We're going to do another row in the blue, so that's how you will look from the front, and this is what you're achieving at the back. Okay, we'll see you again very shortly. Okay, so we've turned the work around. We're doing 1 chain, which as usual doesn't count as a stitch, and then we're doing 1 double crochet into each stitch to the end. So nice and simple, and we will be changing colour at the other end of the row, so a UK double crochet all the way along. Okay, so here we are at the end, so just a nice row of double crochet running across there, and then we're changing to this lovely cerise pink for the end, and that is the end of that row. We'll see you again in a moment with the next one. Okay, so row 116, we're doing a chain of 3, so I've got my 1 with the tail and then 2 with my working yarn. As it's a chain of 3, that is going to count as a stitch. So let's just see if, so that's my first one. We're going to be working trebles now all the way across, and I'm going to crochet my ends in. This is something some of you may have been doing all the way along, and it's entirely up to you. Sometimes I think it works brilliantly, other times it can end up looking a little bit messy somehow through it, but you have to just work that out and see how it works for you. So UK trebles all the way along, and including the chain of 3 at the beginning, you'll have 145 stitches going all the way along when you get to the other end. Okay, we will see you again in a moment. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, just a really nice simple row there, and we're joining the next colour in, which for me is this lovely sunshine yellow. Don't cut off the pink, we will need it again very shortly, so pause at that point. Say, don't fasten off your pink, you need it, and we'll be back again with you very shortly for the next row. Okay, so row 117. There's no turning chain this time. We're doing a slip stitch into the first stitch and then a treble. And you are working along the wrong side of the yarn this time. So it's 1 slip stitch into the next stitch, 1 treble, and this is a UK treble, all the way across. So this, I'm trying to do a double there, So let's just do a couple more, and what you get is this slightly raised fancy look to that side. This side should be quite flat and short, so by doing the treble, the back of it is being pushed to the front side of the work, and it makes that lovely decorative stitch. Okay, we'll see you at the other end in just a moment. Okay, here we are at the end of row 117. We've now finished with the yellow for a little while, so I'm fastening that off. So this is the back. The front of your work will have this lovely decorative stitch on the front. We're now going to go back to the other end, so you don't need to turn your work, but we'll see you very, very soon at the beginning of the next row. Okay, so we've still got the reverse side of the work here, and we're back at the beginning of, so this was row 116, the yellow one was row 117. So we picked up the yarn that we said don't fasten off because we'd need it again, and I've gone into the very, very first stitch, which was the first slip stitch that we worked. It's a little bit fiddly, so you might just have to wrestle with it ever so slightly. So we've rejoined the yarn in the place we need it, and we're doing a chain of 3, and then we're going to do a UK treble into every stitch to the end. So a wrap in, pull it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, and you need to make sure that you go into every stitch. So that's the slip stitch. These are always a little bit, oops, yarn's got snagged, there we go. These are always a little bit more fiddly to work into, they're just that bit tighter, but nice and steady. You want a nice smooth row here, and so you'll end up where you've got this tiny bit of yellow at the back, but it's really making the yellow at the front pop. Okay, see you shortly at the other end of the row. So here we are at the end of the row. This is what you'll have on the front, and then similar on the back, just not quite as pretty. At the end of this, we are now joining in our next colour, which is the black. So always more difficult to see on the instructions, I know. So there we are. I'm going to sew the yellow and the pink ends in, and then continue with the black. Okay. Okay, row 119. Again, another really nice, easy, simple one. We're doing a 1 chain, which I'm doing with the tail. This doesn't count as a stitch, so you then need to work a double crochet into that very first stitch. Make sure you do it with your working yarn, and if you wish, you can do what I'm about to do, which is crochet in the tail. So you go in, tuck that spare piece behind, and work your double crochet, and just do that all the way along, so that we're getting a nice firm foundation row for the next section, which has sort of waves and fans and things in it. Okay, so there we go, nice neat little double knit row. We'll see you again in a moment. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and I've worked a double crochet into that final stitch. We do need to make sure that we've got 145 stitches to work with. We're now just going to turn and work another row. Okay, row 120, identical really to the one we've already worked. So 1 chain, and then a nice firm double crochet. That's a UK double crochet, obviously. American is a single crochet all the way across, just to firm that line up, ready to work the next set. Okay, we'll see you again shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and we're now joining in the next colour. Do not cut off the black, you will need it later on, and we will come back to it and it'll be at the right end. Okay, so we'll pause there for now and we'll come back in a moment with the next row. Okay, row 121. This will probably feel very similar to you shortly because it's one we have done before. So I'm going to do an anchor with one chain at the end, and that doesn't count as a stitch. I'm then going to work a double crochet into that stitch, and we'll be able to pull that nice and tight and create a good edge there. We're then going to miss 2 stitches, so 1, 2, and we're going to work some trebles. So it's 5 trebles, so miss 1, miss 2, into the 3rd one, then work 5 trebles into this nice fan shape. 3, 4, so these are UK trebles, remember. They'll if you're trying to work a US treble, you would end up with a longer stitch. Then we miss 2 stitches. We do a 2 chain. Got my numbers muddled up there. So we've done a 5 treble, then we do a 2 chain and we miss 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we start working 5 trebles into the next stitch. I was getting my 2s and my 5s mixed up there. So let's just go with, yeah, I'm snagged a little. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 trebles, 2 chain, miss 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches, work into the 6th, and do another set of 5 trebles. So I'll just hold that up for you so you can see. So you've worked this one before, so it should be quite easy for most of you to just crack on with that one. Okay, we'll see you at the other end shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end. We've worked 5 trebles there, then we've missed 2 stitches, and we're working a double crochet into the end stitch. We're fastening off now for this colour, and then I will take a moment to sew that end in, but we are staying now on the right side of the work, so this is the right side, and we're going to go back to the beginning and pick up the black and continue with the black. Okay, so row 122, and we're back at the beginning with the right side showing, and we've picked up the black yarn that we left attached. So I'm just joining that in, and I'm doing a 1 chain, which isn't counting as a stitch. So then I need to do a double crochet into that first stitch. Then we're doing a double crochet into the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. So that's that one there. So that's a UK double into those. 1 chain, and then we miss that central stitch there, and we do another 2 double crochets into the back loop only. We're then at this gap here. So we're going to work into the 3rd stitch here, 1, 2, 3. So it's the central stitch of the 5. Okay, and that is a double crochet encasing the purple. So that's 1 chain, and we're doing another double crochet in there, so you've actually got you will have a little gap to work into shortly there. Then we're back to doing a double crochet into the back loop only, those two, a 1 chain, miss a stitch, and another double crochet into the back loop only of the next 2 stitches. And then we're at the gap again, so again 1, 2, 3. The little thread that you can see there is the tail end of the yarn, so while I'm encasing the 2 chain, I'm going to encase that as well. I'll just neaten that bit up. 1 chain, another double crochet into that same hole, and then back to where you're doing 2 into the back loop only, or 1 into each of the next 2 back loops. 1 chain, another 1 into the back loops. We have done this before, so I'm sure this combination will come back to you very quickly, but that's how you're ending up with your shell and these being slightly proud at the front. Okay, we'll see you at the other end. So here we are at the end. This is how we're going to look from the front, and then from the back I just need to catch that and fasten it in. And then we are changing to yarn H, which for me is this nice sky blue, to do the next set of fans. So we'll see you again very shortly. Row 123. So we are starting off with a 3 chain. Down there, keep it nice and tight. 1, 2, 3 chain, and then we are doing 2 trebles at the base of that, so that those 3 appear to be together. So you've got your chain of 3 and you've got 2 trebles. Don't worry about that looking a bit loose, we can tighten it all in as we go along. You're now doing a 2 chain, so this is picking up on the repetitive fan one that we were doing before, and then you're missing all these stitches here, so you're working towards where those 2 were to start with. You're working your trebles into there, and again we're doing 5 like we did last time. So that's actually the 1 chain space that you created on that lower row, and that was what the space was for. So 3, 4, 5 and 2 chain, and then again you're missing all these stitches. It says 6, so that's 1, then you've 2 stitches, that's actually a chain space, another 2 stitches and another stitch there, and again each time you're looking for that 1 chain space that you made here between each set. So you have a chain space there, and the same all the way along. So you want your 5 UK trebles into each one. It does feel a little bit loose when you're doing this, so don't worry, it's when you add then the black row back in and start to attach things and encase things that it gets nice and neat and firm again. So you've got 5 there, 2 chain, and then you're back looking for this gap. Hope that that makes sense for everybody, and we'll see you again very shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end, and we're finishing with 3 trebles into the final stitch. So this is what you'll have at the end, and then we've now finished with this shade of blue, so I'm going to cut that off and fasten that in. You don't churn your work, we're going to go back to the beginning and pick up the black and work across the row. Okay, so one of the slightly more complex rows, but definitely one we've done before. So we're just picking up the black yarn again and joining it to the top of the chain 3, and then we're doing a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch, and a double crochet into that stitch. Then we are going to work a double crochet into the front loops this time. So that's 1 loop, and we're going to do that twice. So you can see how there's this row here of the top of those stitches. We're going into this front loop here, as in the front is the nearest to us, it's not the front of the work. So we've done a double crochet into the front loop only of the next 2 stitches. Then you're missing the stitches on this side, and if you remember, we did a 1 chain in the middle of the group of 5, and we're going to do a double crochet encasing the blue yarn, and a 1 chain, and again a double crochet also encasing. So those 2 stitches that we did previously are now all neatly hidden in there, and then this should start to feel familiar. So double crochet into those 2 front loops, 1 chain, miss a stitch, and again double crochet into these front loops only. I suppose you could go down or up into those 2, and then double crochet encasing everything, 1 chain, and another double crochet. So again, you've got that little gap to come back to later. So you'll have something looking a bit like this. Right, we'll see you at the other end of the row as we finish, just to do the end. Alright, we'll see you shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row. We're going to do a double stitch into the full stitch, not just the back loop at the end one, so into the full stitch underneath both loops, and then we are joining in the next colour, which for me is this lovely azure blue. So there we are, that's the back of the work, and that's the front. You can see how it's pushing that forward there. Okay, don't cut off the black, you will need it again shortly. So we'll see you in a minute for the next round. Okay, so we are starting this off with the 1 chain to anchor this, and then we're working a double crochet into that first stitch, and then we can pull everything tight with those tails. So that's your first one. We're then going to miss these 2 stitches and that one there, and we're going to start working 5 trebles into this 1 chain space. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 2 chains. So same as we've worked before, you're missing those 2 stitches, that 1 chain space, and those 2 stitches, and 1 at either end. So you're actually missing 6 stitches and a 1 chain space, and working into again the 1 chain space of the V stitch, and we're doing 5, and then we're going to continue that across to the other end of the row. So that's 4, oops, 5, 2 chains, and then back to it again, missing all that there, working into the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and your 2 chain. So same thing as we've done before, nice and easy. We'll see you at the other end of the row. So here we are at the end of the row. You've got all the lovely shells going on, and we finish with a double crochet into that last stitch. We can fasten this colour off now because we don't need it again for quite a while, and then we will go back to the beginning. So don't turn your work. We're going to go back to the beginning, pick up the black and work the next row. Okay, see you soon. So row 126, we're rejoining the black yarn in, and we're doing a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch. So we're doing a UK double crochet to give us that end one. Then, as we've done before, we're working into the back loop only this time because we're on the front of the work. So it's a double crochet in that back loop for 2 stitches, 1 chain, miss a stitch, 1 double crochet into the back loop only again, and into the second one as well. Then, encasing this as we go, we're going into the 1 chain space from the black row that's two rows down. So we're doing a double crochet and a chain and a double crochet. Should all be very familiar by now. And then a double crochet into the next 2 back loops only of those 2. A chain, miss 1, double crochet into the back loop only of the next 2, and then a double crochet again encasing those 2 stitches, those 2 chains that we had before. So neatly keeping them in, and then we're just going to work that all the way across the row. So nice and easy, you should be well familiar with this by now. Okay, we'll see you in a moment at the other end of the row. So here we are at the end of the row, and we're going to join with our final double crochet at the very last stitch and pull through with this lovely lime green. So we've got the 2 back loop only double crochet, the 1 chain, another 2, and then a final stitch of a double crochet there. So we'll see you in a moment with the next row. Okay, so 127 is a repeat of row 123. So we do a chain of 3. We've turned the work, by the way, we're working back across the work now. So there we go, that's my chain of 3. I'm doing 2 trebles because it's like a half fan that we've got at the end here. So 2 trebles there, and then 2 chain, and then we're missing all these stitches, and we're going to do 5 trebles, just the same as before, into the V-stitch that we created on the last row. So I've got 5 trebles, 2 chain, and as before we're working in every one of these V-stitches, so that's going to be the next one all the way across to the end, and then we'll come back and pick up the black yarn as we've done before. So we'll see you at the other end. Make sure you work your sets of 5. Okay, so here we are at the end of the row, and we finished with 3 trebles there at the end. So all the other blocks are 5, but that's a 3. And we can fasten off this yarn now because we don't need the green again for a little while. You don't turn your work, we're going to go back to the beginning. I'm just going to spend a moment now tying in any loose ends and sewing them in. Okay, see you shortly. Okay, so here we are with row 128. It is worked the same as row 124, so it will feel very familiar, but I'll still do a little demo for you. So I've rejoined the black yarn I, into the very first stitch there. We do a 1 chain that doesn't count as a stitch, and then we do a double crochet. And because we're working across the back of the yarn, on this one obviously, sorry, the back of the work, you've not changed sides, so we are on the reverse side of the work here. So then we are going to work 2 double crochets, both in the front loop. So the front loop is the one nearest to you. This first one's always a bit funny. Sometimes how I use my hook there, I find that sometimes the easiest way to get that first stitch going. So there we go. So it's the front loop, which is the one nearest to you, and when you turn it over, that then pushes that nice double bit to the front. We're then doing a double crochet into the 1 chain space 2 rows down, and remembering you're encasing, in this case, the green, and a 1 chain, and then another double crochet there. That's making a nice little V-stitch, and then we're starting to work across here. So again, front loop, the one nearest to you, double crochet, and a 1 chain. So you've done 2 there, you're going to miss a stitch, and you're going to work into the next 2, and then we're back down here. So we're looking for that gap. We're missing all, like 3 stitches on this side and 3 on that side, working into that middle. And again, so we're just going to work across the row in that way, creating some 1 chain spaces that will be useful later on. So that's it. So again, finding that centre hole, double crochet, 1 chain, and another double crochet. So we'll see you at the other end of the row fairly soon. Okay, so here we are at the end, and I've done 2 individual double crochet into the back loop only of those, but then we're doing a final double crochet into that last stitch, so completely through, so that you've got a nice firm side that you can work into later. We're going to turn the work and start on the next row. Don't fasten off, we do need this black for the next row. Okay, see you soon. Okay, so row 129, and we're using this to flatten off the row because there's a bit of an undulation going on there. So we do a 1 chain, which doesn't count as a stitch. Then we do a double crochet into that stitch, a double crochet into the next stitch, then a half treble, which is where you go through all 3 at once. Then we're missing that part of the V stitch there, so the first one, and we're going to work a UK treble into the gap in the middle there, so that 1 chain space, and then we're missing the next stitch, and we're doing a half treble, then a double crochet, and then we're at the 1 chain space in the middle, and we're going to work into that 1 chain space there with a double crochet, then another double crochet, a half treble, then again we miss that stitch, and we work into the gap that's in the middle. Going to do a treble, a half treble, double crochet, and then we're back to that middle gap there, double crochet into that, another one into the next stitch, and a half treble. So hopefully you can see there how we're working different lengths of stitches, and it's now giving us a flat edge. Okay, we'll see you shortly at the end of the row. So here we are at the end, and instead of finishing with a double crochet in the one chain space, you're actually finishing with a double crochet into the final stitch. So you've got your treble, your half treble, your double, and then another double. And at this point we are now fastening off the black, but we're not going to turn the work. We're going to go back to the beginning and do the next row based on the right side. So that's how you should look right now. Okay, so we're back with the right side facing, and we're back at the beginning of the row. We're joining in the lovely bright red yarn, doing our usual one chain just to anchor everything, picking up our working yarn, and as usual that doesn't count as a stitch, so I'm going to work a double crochet into that one. And this is a lovely super simple row, so we're going to work a double crochet into every stitch to the end. So that's a UK double crochet, don't forget. US single crochet, if my memory serves me right. So there we go, nice simple neat little row of red stitches that we're aiming for this time. We'll see you shortly at the other end. So here we are at the end of the row. I'm working a double crochet into that final stitch. Probably would pay now to do a quick count up and make sure that you've got your 145 stitches. We're going to continue working with this yarn, so keep this one on your hook, but I would do a quick count at this point. And then we're going to turn the work and start the next row. Okay, row 131. A little bit more going on this one, and we will be working multiple stitches, so we will be increasing. I've got one chain, which doesn't count as a stitch, and a double crochet then to anchor that first stitch. We're going to do a half treble into the next stitch, then a treble, so round and through two, round and through two, and then 3 double trebles into the next stitch, so that's 2 wraps and in, round, back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. So they'll create quite a nice long stitch. We're creating a ripple effect for this next one. So that's 2. Remember, all 3 are going into the same stitch. You're not moving along the row. And that's how you're increasing your stitches. And then we've got a treble. So that's round and through 2, round and through 2. And a half treble. So you're pulling it through all 3. And then a double. Again, these are all UK terms I'm using, so just bear that in mind. And then we're going to repeat. So we're doing now a half treble, followed by a treble, and then 3 double trebles, so that's 2 wraps. And again, same stitch, and again. So that's my 3 into that one. Then we start again with a treble. Tension's gone there, that's it. And a half treble. So wrap it through all 3. and then a double. And you can see how that's creating a nice little mountain effect. Okay, we're going to carry on with that to the end of the row, so we'll see you again shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end, and we're finishing with a double crochet in that final one, and the final pull through needs to be in the lovely bright yellow, which is what we're going to use for the next row. So we'll stop there. You can see what you've got here, and we'll be with you again in a moment with the following row. Okay, so this row is all about double crochets, UK double crochets, but we'll be working 3 double crochet into the top of the peak, but we'll be working a treble 3 together at the bottom. So I've just popped those in just to show you where the stitch is for making multiple stitches, and also that will be the central stitch when we're doing the double crochet 3 together. So let's get started. So for this one we are doing a 1 chain, which still doesn't count as a stitch, but we're not going to work into that first stitch there. We're actually going into the next one, so we have in effect decreased one there, and this is to make sure that at the end of this row we have 193 stitches. The previous row will have ended with 193. So I've got a double crochet there, then a double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. I'm just going to take that out of my way, and I'm going to work 3 double crochet into this stitch, which marks the peak, if you like, of this little mountain there. Then we work another 2 individual double crochets, and here you can see I've got a stitch either side of that. So now I'm there and I know I'm right. I'm just going to take that out. So to work a double crochet 3 together, you go into the first stitch, grab, bring it back through, don't do anything with it. Go into the next one, grab, bring it back through, don't do anything with it, and do that for a 3rd time. So you've now got all 4 stitches on, and then you pull through once, and that brings them all together, and it keeps the trough going there. So you've got these peaks and troughs. So 2 more here, and we're back at the next peak. So in this one I am going to work 3 separate double crochet, and then 2 individual ones, and then we're back. So that's going to be my middle stitch. So we're repeating that again. In, grab, bring it back through, into the next one, grab and bring it back through, into the next one, grab, bring it back through. So your original stitch and then your 3 loops, bring them all together, and it's as simple as that. She says. So I'm going to carry on to the end of the row. As we've said, you should have 193 stitches at the end of this row as well, but don't worry, we'll be decreasing again in a little while to get back to the right number. Okay, see you shortly. Okay, so here we are right at the end, and then for the final 2 stitches we do a double crochet 2 together. So I've gone through 1 and pulled the loop through, and I'm going through the very end. Oops, trying to go through the very end stitch, that's it, and bring that back through. So rather than having the 4 loops, this time you've only got 3, and then you pull through all 3. Okay, so lovely colourful combination there, and we will see you very shortly with the next row. Okay, so this is row 133, and it's an exact repeat of what we've just been doing. So a 1 chain, miss that first stitch, a double crochet, and then so you've missed a stitch, you've worked a double crochet, and then you've worked another 2 double crochet, and then you're at your center of those 3 stitches. So we're going to work 3 double crochet into there, and then we're back to the same rhythm of 2 individual double crochets, and then double crochet 3 together. So that's 3 where you dip in and grab a loop and pull it through, and then 2 separate double crochets, and then 3 into the top. And so you carry on exactly as before, just working across the back of the row. Okay, we'll see you again very shortly at the end of this row. Okay, so here we are at the end. You can see how there's a slightly different look to the colours as you look at, that's the front, this is the back, so that's sort of how you can, one of the ways you can tell you're looking at the back. So for the final stitch we're doing double crochet 2 together, and then we're pulling through with the hot pink on pink for this final stitch. So there we are at the end, looking lovely and colourful, and about to get even more colourful. So we'll see you very soon with the next row. Okay, so row 134. There's a bit more going on with this one. So I've marked the top of the peaks because at that point I need to be working a double crochet, and so I've needed to then just double check and work backwards to make sure that I'm working the correct stitches where I need them. So in the middle of here we do have a double crochet, but then working backwards we've got a half treble, and we've got a treble, and then we've got a double treble, and this is a chain of 3. So I'm going to show you this. I'm only showing you that to give you an idea how to count backwards with your stitches, because sometimes it can be a little bit confusing about what you've got and where. So I'm working a chain of 3, and that's, as you know, I like to do one with the tail, and then another 2 with the working yarn. So I'm then missing a stitch, and I need to work, right, this is just at the beginning, I need to work a double treble. So round and through 2, round and through 2, round and through 2. On that one, just get my yarn anchored properly. Then I'm working a normal treble, and I'm working a half treble. Now I'm going to take this out now because it's served its purpose. So that's through all 3. Then I've got a double crochet, and a half treble, a normal treble, and then we're going to work a double treble 3 together. So that's a wrap 2 in, round and back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, and you stop when you've got 2 loops left there. Wrap twice again into the next one, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2. We've now got 3 loops, and then we're doing it again, round and through 2, round and through 2. At this point we've got 4 loops, so they're your 3 and your original, and then we pull through all 4, and that's how you do a double treble 3 together. Then we wrap and do a normal treble, and a half treble through all 3, and then we're back at our double crochet. So hopefully that's showing you how we are flattening this row out. So we've got our half treble, so pull through all 3, then your normal treble where you do round and through 2 twice, and then we're back to the double wrap, bring it back through the hole, round and through 2, round and through 2, double wrap in the next hole, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, double wrap into the next hole, bring it back through, round and through 2, round and through 2, and then round and through all 4. It's quite a nice stitch actually when you've finished. So we're going to continue then all the way across the row in that form, and when we get to the other end I'll do you a quick demo of how we're going to finish the row. Okay, so that's what you're aiming for, and we'll see you at the other end very shortly. Okay, so here we are at the end, and I just wanted to show you I've done the double crochet, the half treble and the treble, and then we're only actually working into these 2 stitches. That one's being ignored to get us back to, because we're decreasing this, helps us get back to the right number of stitches. So I'm just doing a double treble 2 together instead of double crochet, then double treble 2 together. So round and through 2, round and through 2, and at this point we stop with just 3 stitches there. Oops, try not to lose your stitch. There we go. So that is the end of that row. Don't change yarns yet, and we will see you very soon for the final row of this section. Okay, so we're in the same colour, we're doing a 1 chain which doesn't count as a stitch, and then we're going to work double crochets all the way across the row. Again, this will give us a nice firm base for the next section. When you've had some of the more intricate rows going on, it's good then to have a nice solid either double crochet or treble row just to bring everything back nice and neat and straight. Okay, we'll see you at the other end of the row. So here we are right at the end, and we're bringing in yarn H to finish off. So we're now at the end of a section, so it's a good time to just look over your work, check your stitch count, and then I'm going to spend a little bit of time sewing all these ends in. So anything that's left, I do tend to sew most of them in as I'm going along, but I would now spend that little bit of time sewing in the ends and just checking that you've got the right number of stitches for the next row. So 145 is what we're looking for. I hope you've enjoyed this section, and we'll see you very soon in the new one. Okay, bye for now.